Welcome to the Filmistines, the double feature podcast. Join us as we unravel the interwoven experience of the continuous conversation of cinema. Take part in pairing movies with their cursed counterparts, movies that share DNA, or even pairing questionable duos by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/filmistines. We offer tiers at the $1, $5, and $20 level, where the $5 tier will grant the ability to request films to further the discussion. So grab some popcorn, sit back, and get ready to join the 100-year conversation. This is the Filmistines, where movies are more than just entertainment, they're an experience.
They're an experience.
All around you. And welcome back to another episode of the Filmistines. Thank you guys for joining us today. Today I'm joined by my outside-in friend, Lucy.
Hello, everyone.
Remember, we post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on patreon.com/filmistines with brand new episodes. Some recent episodes include Arthur the King, Next Goal Wins, The Original Karate Kid, Your Name, and Akira. Remember to leave nice comments, thoughts, and ideas on our Patreon as well. Come request a movie. Come subscribe for $1, $3. Go rate us on Apple Podcasts, please. We appreciate all the support. Thank you guys very much.
Are you stressed and filled with anxiety like I am? Maybe in a bit of pain from that car accident you had a few years ago? Well, the sponsor of today's episode, Hempville CBD, has us covered. They have the highest quality products created by chemists and doctors. Hempville carries everything from CBD to THC dispensary grade without those despicable dispensary prices. Order your Delta 8, 9 edibles and vapes along with the THCA flower and get free shipping when you spend $50 or more at HempvilleCBD.com. Check out the link in the description for more details.
But today we will be discussing the obligatory Pixar film of 2024, Kelsey Mann's Inside Out 2, Man Oh Man. I'll be the first person to say this movie's not great. Its scores are out of control.
Like musical score? Or rating score?
It's reviews.
Reviews, okay.
It runs into a similar problem as Akira, actually, and a lot of other movies, where there's a lot of fun individual ideas and representations of things, but they all seem to be an excuse to just help make sense of a completely unfun, underdeveloped, pointless plot, which I get is supposed to be part of the fun and baggage here, is these things that aren't that big of a deal feel like they're a big deal. We all experience that, especially in our youth. The animation is boring. It feels like Pixar can't get away from this kiddie thing. And is this movie actually written by a 13-year-old to authenticate its perspective?
Damn.
I can't remember exactly how you feel about the original, but how did Inside Out 2 fare with you?
It was a very cute movie. It was a fun, family-friendly movie to take your kids to go watch. Kind of. Because there is still like a certain age limit of the kids you can go take to watch this. Because I feel like a maybe 3-year-old and under wouldn't completely be into a movie like this. There's a little too much dialogue going on. And even though the movie is very bright and colorful, it doesn't have some of the charm that other movies can have. Yeah, this movie was very straightforward, I guess, with its messaging. There was nothing really deep to think about or anything to contemplate besides what was given to you on the screen. And I don't know how I felt about giving Riley an emotion such as anxiety purely for hitting puberty. I can understand the embarrassment. I can understand the boredom dude. I forgot his name. But I couldn't really quite comprehend why anxiety at this point in her life and why envy at this point of her life. But I'll roll with it, Okay. I'll take it. I did like the mix of this 2D animation we had going on here. I think it was very well done. Nothing pioneering, of course, but it was fun to see, especially being of the Blue's Clues Dora era. I liked it. And, I mean, the movie was entertaining. It was sort of cute and endearing, but I thought it was very funny. And it had some great slapstick humor, and I was into it. I don't remember where I put Inside Out in my Pixar ranking list, but I do know that I loved that message of losing your inner child, and it gave this particular sadness to the film, which I thought this film was also going to have, but it didn't, and I was surprised that it didn't, because losing Bing Bong is probably the most heartbreaking part of Inside Out, and of course it made me bawl my eyes out.
Yeah, you and everybody else.
Yeah.
People like that dude. Well, you're hitting on the fundamental problem of this film, and it is anxiety. The inclusion of anxiety is not stupid, but as we all know, anxiety is built over many years, many traumas, and many experiences. The missing emotion, I guess you might want to say, is something along the lines of horny. I don't know if you know this or not, but puberty is, in essence, that process of indicating to the world that you're in a position to reproduce.
Yeah.
So the entire plot of this film is just like, what the fuck? This is something that wasn't thought about more than 5 seconds in some boardroom.
No, I like that, because you could have masked it with an emotion called love.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't want to go the horny route, that is a strong word to put out there in a kid's movie.
And I get the trepidation to not want to bring up that in a Pixar movie, but we already have with Turning Red. In a very clever way. I don't love the Turning Red movie, but I do think it's one of the better Pixar films of the last 15 years. So that was a big hang-up for me, because I thought another alternative to that could have been where sadness and anger change in form in some way, and there's a little bit more of a balance between them being at the forefront, kind of displacing joy in some way. With the addition of maybe boredom and envy or whatever, still, I would have called envy jealousy a little more. Something a little more ego-driven and the world revolving around you kind of thing, not envy.
Yeah, more conceited.
Yeah. So I'm glad we agree on that point, because I think that is a fundamental fuck-up in this movie.
Yeah, and to add to your point, we see the mom and dad's main emotion, and I think the dad's is anger and the mom's is sadness. So it kind of would have made sense that as you grow older, these two emotions tend to take over your life a little bit more, and seeing them a little bit more at the wheel. So I could totally see that. What I didn't like, and hopefully I can put this into words because it's a very convoluted process, because I feel like we have anxiety in us as humans, and everyone has this. And then we have an anxiety disorder that not many people have. And I feel like anxiety in this movie was portrayed as both and not a true mental disorder. Except the part when we give her a panic attack, then we start introducing that disorder. But she obviously gets a very good handle on controlling her anxiety.
It's true.
That's taken me, 29 years to even remotely attempt to handle my anxiety. But, kudos to Riley at 13 being able to breathe it out, breathe through it. But I think that's my main problem.
So maybe it's also a little funny that you say that, because so maybe the mental illness anxiety, in quotes, is being a little overstated in a funny way here in the film, because anxiety, the word, has kind of morphed into this all-encompassing mental health, this sister problem with depression. When in reality, anxiety is that little voice in your head that makes you question X, Y, and Z. So there's kind of a duality of the word itself that doesn't contradict itself, but does kind of guarantee an overstatement of it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, because anxiety is a normal part of life. Everyone experiences anxiety. Anxiety is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but very tied to your fight and flight response on how you're going to react to certain things that come into your life. Most of the time, things you'd consider bad things.
Of course. One of the most fundamental forms of anxiety that we obviously all experience and other animals experience is your reflexes. You got a little thing on you that you think is a spider, you're going to wig out for a split second.
Yeah.
You have this deeply subconscious bit of anxiety kind of popping out.
And I feel like this movie didn't do a great enough job explaining to kids that there's two different types of anxiety, and just because you are scared about making a team, just because you're scared about passing or failing a test, that doesn't mean you now have anxiety, the disorder.
Yes, and I think I have come up with part of the fix to this entire film is how about we make anxiety, the concept of anxiety, the all-encompassing, a little bit more ethereal or surrealistic, and instead of putting it at the control panel, we put it in the back of the mind. We never see it. We see the kind of effects of it.
Almost like that scene where anxiety's in the projection and saying, hey, send me ideas so Riley can't sleep at night, and keeping it back there like that. Because I almost thought this movie was glorifying anxiety in a way, but it's really not. So I was having a hard time really thinking about what they're saying about anxiety here, because they're using anxiety as a way for Riley to push herself for what she really wants. You know, that was the main conflict here between Joy and anxiety. Joy wanted Riley to have fun with her friends and goof off, while anxiety wanted her to wake up early and get some training done and fit in with the kid that's gonna make her get on the team. But we didn't really glorify it because we kept pushing Riley, and she did not come off looking good in any of these scenarios. She was stealing and she had anxiety attacks and her friends didn't like her. But we kind of made it sound like anxiety is bad. Anxiety is the villain. When in reality, anxiety disorders are bad. Anxiety disorders are the villains. Normal everyday anxiety is okay. Like you said, you want to swat that spider off your arm. You want to react to it. You want to react to these situations, these stressors.
Anxiety should have been more attached to every single emotion. Anxiety makes you irritable, can make you angry, can make you sad, right? It can make you steal things. Anxiety can. And I get that we had this kind of spotlight on anxiety at the control center, but how about anxiety controlling the other emotions?
Oh, yeah. Because even like the boredom emotion, anxiety can make you freeze and disconnect from life, and that can come off as boredom. So yeah, that would have been good. Like anxiety sort of manipulating the other emotions in a way.
But in the end, we just have anxiety to challenge Joy and to make her reflect on her own poor decision making for Riley's state of being, because she was ultimately doing the same thing, right? And crafting her ego, sense of self to her own liking.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about that? That's the justification why anxiety is what it is in this film, to challenge Joy.
Yeah, I don't know how I felt about that, because we're almost pinning anxiety and joy against each other. And one of the most infamous lines in this movie is Joy saying, maybe when you grow up, you feel less joy. And I don't know how I felt about that. And this is like, oh my gosh, this is resonating with everybody. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, that's true. That's right. When you grow up, you do feel less joy. I don't think so. I don't think that's how it works. You don't grow up and you feel less joy. You're just letting yourself get there, or you've always kind of been mildly depressed and maybe didn't want to accept it, and now you do accept it. I don't know.
Because there was also this sort of competing emotion that didn't really exist that was kind of happening in the background, and it was Riley herself, where they were a little more hands off and let Riley just be Riley. And I guess her actions were orchestrated through the literal orb of self that the emotions fed into, and so there's kind of this meta level of puppet pulling. But I don't know, like, does it beg the question that these emotions are putting themselves out of a job at some point too? Like, I really don't like the competing threads of action here: joy, Riley herself, and anxiety.
Yeah, I don't know if I quite put it like that, because we didn't have this sense of self in the first movie, but now we do. And then again, with the parents having their emotions still controlling them. But to add a little bit more to your question, with anxiety basically displacing joy, we have this scene that I was very surprised about, where joy breaks down, and it felt very out of character. And I don't know how I felt about it, because now all of a sudden we're making joy
Just like Riley.
have
Just like,
other emotions.
yeah.
Yeah. Because anger calls her delusional. And
It
she's-
opens up a really bad door.
Yes. It was off to me. It was. And then she says, that maybe anxiety is right, and that she is just hurting Riley, and she just cares, blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, it hurts. It really hurts. And then she starts crying. And I was like, wait, so what did we just do to Joy? Did we break Joy? Like, what is happening here? It doesn't go with your movie.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It brings a totally unwanted depth of character.
It would have worked if all of a sudden joy transformed into another emotion that's tied with joy, and maybe sadness or
Sure.
something, morphed into something else. She became a new color. I don't know.
Or maybe it could have been a play on anxiety having some kind of control over joy. But yeah, that's a super good point. Well said. Is the world of Inside Out too literal? With our stream of consciousness, our sarcasms, the back of the mind. They're cute in and out of context, but should there be this element of surrealism a little more upfront? Because I know it's a challenge. We have kids who are the primary demographic, the targeted demographic. So is injecting this ethereal kind of obtuse conversation of how to describe things taking it too far? I feel like that would help the imagination a little bit and spark that charm that Pixar used to have of representing these things in some kind of amorphous way, but still having enough form that you're like, oh yeah. And it kind of can be relatable in a better way than this movie actually is, because I think it kind of is predatory in its relation.
Yeah, I think it's way too literal and blunt almost. It loses that charm of what it could be. It loses a lot of that personality. But I don't think I'm mad at it. It almost feels like it's slapstick-ish.
Yeah, of course, especially like the sarcasm thing.
Yeah,
I was just
that was...
like, it was cute, but I'm just like,
yeah,
that's all this is.
I liked it. I thought it was funny. The anxiety attack, the literal anxiety attacking, I loved it. I thought it was cute for what it was. Would it have benefited from something more surrealistic? Yes, for sure. But then are we now losing this emotion 101 course for kids and making it something else? Because I think this is what the Inside Out movies are trying to be, a crash course on identifying emotions.
And it's maybe one of the shortcomings of a sequel in this kind of universe, because in the first film, it is easily sold to the audience that a child's mind, a young child's mind, what is she, 7, 8, would be in some way a little simpler and a little bit more underdeveloped and easier to represent in a lucid manner. But then when you introduce a sequel, you're introducing a more complicated state of mind, but we have the exact same level of literality. It only really kind of grew in size. Like there's some kind of linearity to the growth of a mind instead of it being this higher ordered function.
Yeah, that might be giving sequels too much credit, or maybe 13-year-olds of today too much credit, because I feel like we're also coddling our kids a little bit more, but that is a complete opinion. I don't have kids, so I don't know, but I have a lot of nieces and nephews, and I want to protect them as much as I can from this harsh world. So maybe there's something there about let's not expose these kids, as opposed to when we were 13-year-olds or when our parents were 13-year-olds. I mean, my mom got married at like 15. That's insane.
It's like the Colonel from Akira protecting his people from themselves.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the emotions? Our new emotions. Who's missing? We already talked about that a little bit. We have this weird inclusion of nostalgia. Thought that was bizarre.
That was hilarious.
It plays into, it was funny, I will say, but it still plays into the same problem I have, both of us have, it sounds like, with anxiety being present. It's just a little soon for Riley to be so emotionally developed.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I didn't have my first anxiety attack until I was like a junior in college, and that was hitting me.
Yeah, nostalgia is another thing that's overused and overstated, like anxiety.
But they knew that here.
They knew that here, and of course there are little pokes and funs for the adults taking their kids, right? But the reality is there's these little instances of Riley being nostalgic in the context of the plot, which is stupid because I don't really think you can be all that nostalgic until you're at least in your 30s.
But kids also want to feel like they're older than they actually are. Kids want to experience these adulty things that adults are experiencing. So I could kind of see that as a joke in there. If the Pixar creators thought of that in that way, I could see it. Kids wanting to be like, oh, I remember back when I had to sleep in my PJs. Like, I don't know. But I agree. Nostalgia should happen when you're a bit older.
I mean, I think it takes a solid 20 years in between the experience and the feeling of nostalgia. You need a good bit of time to have that. I mean, basically an element of depression kind of overcome you for a split second.
Yeah, there needs to be that kind of negative emotion tied to it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because nostalgia is painful.
Like, Riley, your two friends are still there. They're still with you at that camp. You haven't even split schools yet. But as far as the characters, I love that some of our characters from the first movie and our new ones got more screen time, more personality. I liked Embarrassment. I liked that he was this big old dude with a hoodie, and when he bent over, he had a little butt crack. Clever, hilarious. I loved it. I love that we got a little bit more of fear, and he had a parachute. Like, of course, he's prepared. I liked the new emotions, except for envy. I think envy was probably the weakest here.
Totally.
And it's so sad because it's played by Ayo Edebiri. I think that's how you say her name, but she's Sydney from The Bear, and she's awesome. So I just hate that. Sucked because she's so good, and envy was just so weak here. Again, maybe it would have benefited from being a different emotion and being played a little bit differently, even making her a little bit more sassier or maybe more petty. But we already kind of have that with disgust.
Yeah, envy was ultimately kind of just the sidekick to anxiety.
And that's not a pair. Like, you pair anxiety and depression, But I think they had way more fun with the emotions here. And I will say that Pouchy and Bloofy were definitely my favorite characters. And that's the consensus out on the internet.
Was he a combination of Dora and Bluey or Dora and Blue's Clues?
I thought it was more of a Blue's Clues character, just based off the art style. But Pouchy was definitely a Dora character. Like that's map vibes, backpack vibes.
I feel like we've had a lot of characters lately in animated films where they're just these strange, offbeat, almost Adult Swim sort of characters in these kid animated films.
I don't know. You would know the Adult Swim characters. I only know my Blue's Clues and Dora.
It's kind of like this star from Mario that's under the lava or by the lava.
The depressed one?
Yeah. It's just this weird off-color thing. It's fun.
But they're definitely my favorite characters. And the scene when Anger just violates Pouchy at the end to get all that dynamite is definitely my favorite scene in this movie. I don't even know what line he said, but it cracked me up. I know we briefly mentioned it in the beginning of the movie, but how did you feel about adding these 2D characters, including Lance/Blade?
I like it when animated films mix art styles or animate on different 2s or 3s or something.
Like the Fairly Odd Parents and Jimmy Neutron movie.
Yeah, it's super pleasing to see that.
Yes.
Why were Lance, Bloofy, and the Deep Dark Secret all in the same vault, though? There were several vaults, lots of vaults, presumably infinite, right? Why were they together?
That's funny. Are they all equal in embarrassment, like trying to forget about him? Like, is a video game character crush as embarrassing as watching Blue's Clues or Dora or Bluey or a kid's TV show along with your Deep Dark Secret? Maybe to Riley they are. I don't know, but that's funny. That's a weird combination of characters.
What was her deep, dark secret? Because at the post-credits scene, he says something like the secret is Riley burning a hole in a carpet or something, and then runs away. Is it just to make kids laugh? Because it felt like that premium stupid, like, it was a real kind of baity thing that didn't amount to anything.
They shouldn't have given us that post-credit scene. They should have let us just kind of wonder what that deep dark secret is. Like, what was your deep dark secret when you were 13 years old, you know?
Yeah, and maybe it can come into play in the sequel.
Yeah.
In some stupid fun way. Inconsequential way. Yeah, I thought it was just so stupid. I couldn't take it.
Yeah, and then Joy said, "Oh, I thought it was because you peed in the pool." And then he ran away. Like, okay. We could have not done that. But everything with those characters were funny, and they were definitely some of my favorite parts of the movie. You mentioned earlier in the episode that you were not a fan of this animation style. The last Pixar movie before Inside Out 2 was Elemental, which was a very different art style compared to this. But besides that, it felt very Pixar-y. It felt very Luca, Lightyear, Turning Red. And I like those animations.
Yeah, I mean, Pixar is very consistent and true with its animation and its art style. And yes, they do sort of vary, but they all feel very similar. And at this point in time, it's sort of a fatigue conversation, I guess. Pixar animation and art style is just so boring.
Did you feel the same way with Soul?
Soul's a little bit different because we had a little bit more of a cartoony thing going with human beings. And so there's a little bit more of a like proper, my mind always goes to Edda and Eddie or something, kind of character cartoonification. You aren't handed that advantage when you're inventing non-human, organisms. But I guess, to be honest, I'm not exactly sure what it is about Soul that kind of bubbles to the top of animation for Pixar in the last 15, 20 years. Because even looking back all the way from Toy Story to now, there is some kind of consistency that is really, really linear. And it's good. People, would die to work on Pixar movies as animators. They are some of the cream of the crop of as far as work goes. Writing is a different question, right? But there's something so stagnant about Pixar today that it feels like it's just kind of being lapped by basically everyone as far as like Illumination and DreamWorks and Sony.
Yeah. Yeah, the Spider-Man, Miles Morales movies, the Puss in Boots movies. I mean, yeah, I can see that.
So it's less of a I don't like it and more of like I'm bored by it. I've had vanilla ice cream all my life. Give me some nonsense like Rocky Road or
Look, I'm fine with vanilla ice cream the rest of my life. I'm fine with chicken the rest of my life. I'm complacent.
and it's kind of funny that they introduced just radical art styles within the movie like Lance and Bloofy, and it almost feels like they are consciously exposing themselves of their lack to explore what another Pixar movie could look like. Like, here's your little nugget of something. Like, what if we had a Bloofy art style Pixar movie? What does that look like? You know? I don't know. I'm not an animator. I'm not a digital artist like this, but I'd like to believe that Pixar was once asking the question of like, what does a 3D animated movie look like? And now they've figured that out. They've answered that question many times, and they're just gonna stick with it. It's like that artist who's just made the same work for all their life. And she's like, man, I just wish you would do something else, anything else. So I don't know. It's just there's a level of talent here that is just not being utilized in the best way, I think.
Yeah, that's fair. Because every Pixar movie is really good with its animation and its colors, and these colors representing these emotions and ways to make you feel in these scenes, and they've mastered it. But at some point, you stop being wowed by this master.
Yeah, you're the master because you can continue to ask that question and find that solution, right? They were the master 20 years ago, 15 years ago.
Man, that scene with Woody being repaired in Toy Story 2.
One of the most iconic scenes of any animated film ever.
Yes. Yes. I think about that scene throughout my life. It lives rent-free in my mind. It's beautiful.
What's the sequel going to be? Inside Out 3. Is she going to fall in love in high school? Is it going to be 12th grade, going to college?
I could see that. I could see a senior going into college. Definitely going to involve a boy. Will the parents be more involved? I don't know. Something tells me yes.
Is it going to be a Pixarification of Euphoria?
No.
Lots of drug use.
No.
Lots of fooling around.
Get out of here. We all know what you're thinking once you wanted to add horny as an emotion.
Let's just make it a porno.
No. It's definitely going to be like a Toy Story 3 situation.
Is Inside Out 2 better than the original?
Ugh. I don't know. It might depend on my mood, and it might require a rewatch at home because we went to see this movie with the fam at the movie theater, and movie theaters give you this different sense of
anxiety.
No. Yes, but not in this case. Of just the movie watching experience.
Sure.
The surround sound, the seat. And my brother-in-law thought so many things were funny, and his laugh is so infectious that did I really think that was funny, or did his laugh just make me think that was funny?
Totally.
But I thought this movie was hilarious.
I thought this movie was funnier than the original, I think.
Yes, definitely.
I'm with you there.
But, me and the crying, adding that bing bong scene tore me up. And I don't know why losing your childhood and losing that sense of innocence is so disturbing, even in a Pixar movie. That just gets to me. So maybe it might depend on the mood that I'm in, but I don't think one was better than the other.
I think the original is better just because I think the focus is a little tighter, especially with that climax being Bing Bong.
Bing Bong.
Because there's no denying the stroke of genius that comes with, your imaginary friend being like for the second time erased permanently from your mind, because it was already once erased from Riley's business as usual in her daily life, but Bing Bong is now permanently gone, even from her subconscious.
You're just gonna make me cry, aren't you?
That's a powerful moment.
Yes.
And that alone, I think, elevates the first one over the second one. It's just much more directed in that way, because I think we have a fundamental problem in the plot of Inside Out 2 with anxiety. So
yeah, I don't put everything into the plot when I'm...
Yeah, no, sure, the experience is half the movie at least.
Yes.
And going to the movies can predate on that a little bit. It can be a little manipulative.
Yes.
That's fine. That's fine.
I'm here to be manipulated.
That's fine. Is it better than Elemental, though?
Yes.
Yeah, it's...
Definitely.
I think it is, too.
And I didn't even watch that at the movies. Although, I will say, I did not like the setting we put Riley in. And that's this hockey camp thing.
Yeah, I didn't like the setting at all.
That was kind of lame. Asked one of my nieces what she thought about the movie. She's like, it's okay. It had a lot of hockey in it. I was like, that's what you got from the movie? You know what, though? I felt that. Like, it was pretty lame.
I wish it would have focused more on the relationship between Riley and her friends, because also a fundamental problem is us caring about her taking these two paths.
Yeah.
We're introduced to these friends at the very beginning, but we're also introduced to, oh, these friends aren't going to be around much longer in Riley's life. And this summer hockey getaway is going to be one of the last major experiences they might have together. But at the exact same time, we're seeing this obsession Riley has with Val, or at least wanting to kind of walk in her footsteps at the exact same time. So why do we care over one or the other? Maybe that's the question they want us to ask.
Yeah, that's the sense of self problem.
But it's hard to ask and care about that question when, like you were saying earlier, Riley really only goes all in with her anxiety and trying to be the best of the best of the best, sir.
Because in the first movie, we had a less focus on Riley and who she was as a person. In this movie, we focused on her a little bit more, but we didn't commit to everything else she's experiencing. And how can we? I mean, I don't know how long this movie is, but did we have time for that? To let us know why we give a crap?
No, we would have had to abort the whole movie and
start from scratch,
yeah, to make it a little more punchy and cohesive and even entertaining.
I did not like the end.
Garbage.
It was garbage. I also didn't like how we made it look like she made the team. Like, Riley played so selfishly. She was not a team player. She made everyone run drills. She couldn't even handle the pressure of a camp, of a scrimmage. But she made the team, and it's rare for freshmen to make the team. What?
Yeah, it's like...
What are we teaching kids?
Riley didn't learn anything.
Well, she learned how to control her anxiety. But what is that to the coach?
See, that's kind of the funny thing. She didn't learn how to control her anxiety. Anxiety learned that...
That's true.
It needs to share this space. There wasn't this like double kind of character learning thing.
Well, she breathed. She took some deep breaths. Anyone practicing mindfulness knows you got to take them deep breaths.
Sure. Yeah. Like, her friends that came up to her were kind of like...
She apologized.
She apologized, but we didn't have this reason to care about her friends at the same time. Like, I didn't care about anything. Why am I supposed to care? Make me care. It's not that hard. Millions of movies do it. Pixar did it in 5 fucking minutes with Up.
Ooh, yeah, that one was rough.
Through no dialogue, mind you.
Oh, shit.
Also, through one of the most fundamental realities we must face, that we get old and die. It's nothing new, but they did it geniusly. I don't know how we would have fixed the end on the back of this nonsense.
Don't let her join the team. Don't let her get this spot and make her work her ass off to get it next time. Teach kids that this is not okay to do. Like, don't expect this kind of reward for that kind of behavior.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't know what to say. That's maybe as well said as it can be said. She stole the thing, the ledger.
She didn't even have any consequences for that.
She got her friends back. She stayed friends
With Val.
with Val and the team. We coddled Riley.
We coddled Riley.
That's tough.
That is tough.
All right, man. Well, thank you for watching this movie with me, the obligatory Pixar film of 2024, and thank you for talking about it here today.
You're welcome.
Do you have a budget guess for this film?
I'm going big or going home. 150 million.
Well, that wasn't big enough. It was
What?
$200 million.
What?
And it's already gone on to make $380 million, so it is on its way to be probably the biggest movie of the year.
That was all my family right there. All 20 of us going to go see it. But yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Not really. It sends a terrible message to Pixar.
Yes, but
I do love seeing animated films kind of displace regular movie-going experience films.
I'm all for people making their money for their project.
Sure, there's a lot of hard work that went into this,
Yes,
no doubt.
Yes. And they promoted the shit out of this.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Come on, Furiosa. Like, you just spend that extra $50 million to get it in everybody's screens.
We know you got it from Mad Max. We know you do. But yes. Good job, Pixar. You fixed your elemental problem.
It is better than Elemental.
And Lightyear.
And better than Lightyear, yes. You are absolutely... I guess we are on somewhat of an upswing. It's a process. You can't just hit it out of the park. It's kind of rare when that happens, right?
That's true.
Well, over on Letterboxd with 224,000 people already. They weighed in at a 3.8. That's what I'm talking about.
Whoa.
Way too high. Way too high. What is wrong with people?
I don't think that's way too high. Way too high would have been
What is wrong
4.
with you? Way too high would have been what?
A 4.
Yeah, totally.
3.8 is not too high. I can see the love behind this. People just need to take a little extra time for thinking about what exactly this movie is trying to tell you. Because we're obviously enamored with the characters, with Pixar, with it being a sequel, with these emotions, with anxiety just being so popular right now. Everyone's got anxiety. We need to take some time to think about it.
My anxiety's got anxiety.
My anxiety does have anxiety. I probably have a shirt that says that somewhere. But we need to calm down and really think about the movie.
We need a better vocabulary, too, of how to describe these things, too. I'll start with that.
Yes. Get on that. I'm giving it a 3.
That's solid.
Solid 3.
I'm giving it a 2
Oh.
out of 5.
Oh. That's rough. Come on, Pouchy.
Pouchy's cool. And I am, I guess biased towards animation. And I think a lot of people are. They see really tight, slick, sexy animation, and it drives a really nice experience because it's just fun.
Yeah.
And I got to fight that feeling in myself. I had to fight that a lot with Akira.
I see.
So it's a challenge, and then same thing with going to the movies, right? You can't let that obfuscate your ultimate thoughts too much. Because what are you worth more than your word?
Your sense of self.
But yeah, man, thank you for talking about this movie here today. And thank you guys for listening to this episode of The Filmistines. Remember, we post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on patreon.com/Filmistines, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube. Remember to leave nice comments, thoughts, and ideas on our Patreon as well. Come subscribe for $1, $2. Come write in. Come request a movie. What movie should they request?
The new Bad Boys?
We appreciate all the support. Thank you guys very much. But until next time, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Filmistines. Thanks for tuning in and joining us on our cinematic journey. We hope you enjoyed the discussion and gained new insights and perspectives on the world of movies. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, especially Patreon at patreon.com/Filmistines. And follow us on social media for more film-related content. We love hearing from our listeners, so if you have any feedback, suggestions, movie recommendations, or book recommendations, please feel free to reach out to us. Until next time, keep watching, keep loving the magic of movies. This is the Filmistines signing off.